Tonight's subject, anxiety, panic, and burnout. That's a very contentious subject, and we're going to approach it a little bit differently tonight. As I go through the discussion, we'll go around what it is not, what most people suggest you do with anxiety and panic, and what not to do with anxiety and panic. Okay, because there are things that you shouldn't do, but usually when we don't do those things, most people get stuck in the anxiousness and in the panic, and then the mind goes haywire, and they fall back on what their habits are in those situations. And those habits come from somewhere. They don't just fall out of thin air. So when we are anxious or when we are panicky about something, certain thing that happens in the subconscious mind, and you fall back on that trigger and those habits that you've been taught. Now, how do we become anxious and panicky? It's an interesting question because there is so much of it on the planet, and so much of it I've worked with during my years with people and the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind, how it perceives anxiety and panic is very strange. Okay, it's very, very strange. It's not your average, okay, straightforward thing. It comes from a lot of different inputs and a lot of different situations that happen to a person mostly during childhood, because that's where we learn about life. That's where we learn about safety. That's where we learn about support. That's where we learn about handling problems. So when that happens, usually the inner child reacts to anxiety and panic. It is not the grown-up that reacts to anxiety and panic. It is the inner child. Now, if the inner child reacts to anxiety and panic in a grown-up world, can you imagine what happens to that poor body of yours, your poor mental state? Okay. Now, funny thing, the body remembers. Your body keeps score of your experiences. For instance, if there is something that caused great anxiety or something that caused great panic, and you picked up certain things like smells and sounds and sensations and tastes and touch, if you see those things again, the mind will react again. The body will go, okay, well, this situation is now the same, and the body will react the same, no matter where you are. It reacts exactly the same in the situation. And that is rough because the body will do its thing. Now, what most people want to do is they don't want to panic. They panic about panicking. They become anxious about anxiety. Okay, that is not a helpful thought. If you become anxious about not becoming anxious, or if you become panicky about not becoming panicky, you're putting more stress on the nervous system. So what most people do is they turn to whatever they've got, alcohol, drugs, TV, something else. Okay, so we have these little things that we put in our system. And it's funny because alcohol is no-go. If you suffer from anxiety and panic attacks, alcohol is not your way out, unfortunately. Most people think, oh, I'm just having a drink to calm me down. Alcohol is poison. Okay, it poisons the system, puts more stress on the system. And now you think by putting more poison and more stress on the system, you're going to get out of it. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. But most of us are so inundated with the social structure of just take a drink to relax, man. Let's go have a drink to have fun. Let's go have a drink to celebrate. Let's go do. We have these things surrounding alcohol, but the body doesn't see that the same. Okay, no matter how you look at it, alcohol is poison, right? That doesn't mean you have to be sober the whole time or clean the whole time or just be a total dry person or a person that doesn't drink alcohol. Sometimes it's okay, but if you use alcohol as a coping mechanism, then you're putting your body under more stress. And what happens if the body is under more stress? Can the mind think clearly? Impossible. Okay. But it's a double-edged sword. The mind is impressive. You can fantasize about so many things, and anxiety and panic is not excluded from that list. Most people, when they have a fear or they're anxious about something, the mind goes, but this is going to happen, this is going to happen. They build these pictures because the mind needs to build the pictures of what's going to happen because it is a survival mechanism. And then it makes it worse because then the fantasy is coming. Oh, shucks, I'm afraid of confrontation. This is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. My work is going to fire me. I'm going to go bankrupt. And all these things start to snowball in the mind. What do we do when the mind starts to snowball? So weird question, but what do you do when the mind starts to snowball? Some people don't even know their minds are snowballing. It's so autopilot that they project their fears, they project their anxieties of what's going to happen, and they're totally out of the present moment. Okay, there's a lot to be said for bringing the mind back into the present moment. Now, how do we do this? There's a nice set called the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set where you use your 5 senses, especially with anxiety, to anchor your mind in the present. Okay, so you use your 5 senses in the following ways. You first of all find 5 things that you can look and see what's around you, but you really describe them to yourself, like a table, a light, a chair, whatever that is. You find 5 things and you tell your mind what those 5 things are with your eyes, and you describe them to yourself in detail. Then the second step is to grab 4 things that you can actually literally touch. You touch 4 things. And how do they feel? Are they soft? Are they hard? Are they cold? Are they hot? Are they smooth? Are they rough? So you anchor your sense of touch with the sense of vision. Then the third step is to hear 3 different sounds. Okay? So then you anchor your sound or your ears to listen to 3 different sounds. And if you don't have 3 different sounds around you, make a noise with something. Different noises around you. So just tap different things, make different noises. So you anchor your sense of sound. Then you have 2 things you can smell, whether it's your body odor or your hands or something around you, your clothes, 2 different smells that you can smell. And the last one is the taste, where you roll your tongue in your mouth and ask yourself, what's the last thing I tasted? Now, what this does is it forces you to be in the moment. You cannot look, for instance, if I look at my table here, I cannot look and describe my table and think of something else. Very difficult. The mind struggles to hold 2 things at the same time. So we anchor it through our senses. Now, you don't have to be very specific with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can just do whatever works for you, whatever gets you in the moment. Now, what happens if you're in the moment? It is weird because every thought takes you out of the present moment. Because every thought is either a memory or a desire. It's either something that happened to you or something that you're projecting in the future. And those thoughts push and pull you out of the present moment. Now, if you're anxious about something, okay, say for instance, you had a bad experience when you were younger. Let's use abuse. Say you were abused in a situation. Everything that comes up that might potentially invoke a circumstance of future abuse, the mind is going to go to it. It's going to fill it in with those gaps, and you are going to cycle. And your body's going to go, why? Because the mind cannot distinguish between reality and fantasy. Very difficult for your mind to distinguish between reality and fantasy. Right? For instance, if you have a dog or if you love animals, if I have to tell you now that you imagine that your favorite animal is now being crushed by a truck and lying next to the road, busy dying, there will be certain thoughts and emotions running through your mind. It won't happen. It's not that it's happening, but the mind can't distinguish between that side and what's happening in here. Or if I tell you to imagine a beautiful flower for me, a beautiful rose, a red rose, maybe in a black vase, that mind cannot not think of the rose. It doesn't know that the rose is not real. So it does something in the brain. So what happens if we fill our brain with anxious thoughts of the future, of the past, and they all come amalgamating together and crashing down? What happens to the body? Lots of anxiousness. Okay. Now, if your anxiety persists and if it's constant, it's going to go full over into panic. And panic attacks, there are similarities. People have panic attacks. They feel like they're dying. They feel like their heart palpitations, the heart's going to jump out of the chest. Feels like they're literally going to die. But you cannot die of a panic attack. Okay. You can maybe die of anaphylactic shock or something, but the panic attack itself, no. And what do most of us do when we reach panic or anxiety? We try and suppress it. So one weird way of countering this is to ask yourself, okay, I want to come body. I want to make this anxiety and panic as bad as I can. Let's see how hard I can push my heart rate. Let's see how fast I can make my breathing. Let's see how immobile this panic attack can make me. So you challenge that panic attack on a physical level. And if you challenge that panic attack on a physical level and you can make it worse, something amazing happens. Because then you realize, okay, you're in control, not the panic attack, not the anxiety. You can make your anxiety worse. You can tell your body, okay, I want to feel this. Let me feel the heart palpitations. Let me feel the sweaty palms. Let me feel the shortness of breath. What is this experience? And then once you do that, and you can actually make it worse, then you realize, okay, but you can make it worse, so you can make it better. So there is a part of you that's in control of this. This is not in control of you, if that makes sense. Okay. Now, what to do if, for instance, life, okay, I've had so many people, but you can't do this. This is life. You need to pay the bills. You need to do this. Yes, okay, you need to pay bills, but you must be very, very clear on what is your baseline for survival. If you are very, very clear on what's your baseline for survival, it will be much easier to see when you reach the dangerous level. Okay. For instance, many, 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 many years ago. It's probably what, 13, 14 years ago, probably around there. I had a client who was actually doing very well financially, nice relationship, very well familiarly with his family, but he still had this fear that he was going to be poor. Okay, and he wasn't poor. Okay, he was actually quite well off and quite wealthy. That fear happened when his mom told him that she doesn't want. She took him around. She says, "You see those people? They're living in a car. You're also going to live in a car if you don't work." In his subconscious mind, that was the message he got. So no matter how hard he worked, whenever he thought his business was going a little bit down, that picture of him living in a car was coming in, overriding his whole reality. That's a frightening thought. So we sorted that out. And then I'll never forget it, while we were walking out, he said, but this being present in the moment thing doesn't help for his anxiety. And I'm like, but what do you mean? And he said, no, he's thinking now of his ex-wife, of his new girlfriend, of his business. He's thinking of everything, what he closed it. He's thinking of it now, but it just creates anxiety. I'm like, no, you do not understand the present moment. Those things are not real now. We are standing in my driveway surrounded by the flowers, the trees, the animals. This is the now. Your mind is bringing your ex-wife, your girlfriend, everything into the current situation. And he's like, oh, is that what they mean by the now? Not allowing your thoughts to come and hijack your present moment. Your present moment is only your present moment. As soon as a thought arises in the present moment, it's being hijacked. And that sorted out a lot of problems for him. He actually had a whole life shift. Okay, so there are things anchored in our subconscious mind that triggers this anxiety and this panic. Now, another thing to approach it as is to imagine the worst possible scenario. That's what most of us do in any case when we become anxious and panicky. Okay, what is the worst possible scenario that can happen? If your company, for instance, closes down tomorrow and you have no work, you have no income, what's the worst possible scenario? Where will you end up? The mind needs to make sense of the worst and the best possible scenario. Now, if you do that, and if I'm a great believer in this dualistic universe, that we have to understand the dual sides of everything. Okay, every emotion, every experience, everything we do has dual sides. There's no positive without a negative, and there's no negative without a positive. It's impossible on this planet. So if we break it up into two dualities, there's only two base emotions that people run from. That's love and fear. Okay, either it comes from love or either it comes from fear. Now, where does anxiety and panic reside? In love or in fear? If you think and overthink and all these fears come crashing down on you and you project into the future and this is bad, that's panic and anxiety. But if you flip the switch and there's something that you look forward to, oh, I'm so excited, I can't sleep. People stay awake all night. It's like, I can't wait, I can't wait. It's all these future thoughts, but they are positive. Then we call it excitement and enjoyment and looking forward to things. It's the same dual thing that you feed yourself, but anxiety is just on the negative side. And on the positive side, we've got the enjoyment part. Okay, so that is quite crucial to understand. And you will see it in your self-talk and how people talk. When you discuss something with a person, say a fear or something, they're already projecting, but this happened, that happened, then this happened, their mind is all over the show. Then their family and their friends are drawn into this fear, and that's going to happen to them, and it's like, wow, breathe, go back. Incidentally, if you tell a panicky person that's about to feel like they're dying and feel like they're having a heart attack, when you have a heart attack, you won't be able to move. People who panic can actually move. They get edgy. Okay. If you're about to have a heart attack, the heart attack will stop you. So don't worry. You can move until you have a heart attack and then you won't move around again. Okay. So there are certain logical things that go out the window with panic and anxiety. Right. Now, on a spiritual level or a bigger level or a religious level, I don't know what you want to call it, but there is a bigger picture surrounding this. If we always, our mind can go into bigger places, like the universe, like the planet, like other planets, like the mind can travel everywhere. So if we connect to a bigger picture of what this existence is like, and there's an energetic wisdom, and we are all busy dying in any case, if the mind goes, okay, but what's the worst that can happen? Probably death, starvation, okay, being alone. Then you look for support. Now, support shows up in different things, in different arenas. And it's funny because if you ask yourself, okay, who made this t-shirt? Who made my shirt? Somebody made this shirt. I can wear it now. That was indirect support. I didn't make this shirt. There's no way in hell I'll make this shirt. But anyway, so if you look at support in different facets of your life, then it starts to become easier for you to place the anxiety on the sideline, right? Now, a lot of people suggest breathing exercises. Yeah, it's okay. But the mind is in charge of your breath. Okay. If you are panicky, you're breathing slow. If you are sad, you breathe in more than you exhale. If you're happy, you exhale more than you inhale. Okay. The mind is closely related and the emotions are closely related to breathing. So rather sort it out here first and get the anxiety part under wraps. All right. Now, final thing before we go to the people who wanted to ask questions. Burnout. The foundation of burnout. There's a very important thing that most of us do. We think being busy equals being productive. And so many people are busy and they're hustling and so many people have got to hustle, hustle, hustle. I'm like, that word is starting to irritate me these days. Okay, we are glorifying being busy. Now, if you're busy and you're busy in the wrong environment with value systems that go against your own, you are going to burn out. There's no other way. That's going to happen. Because most people don't take a step back and ask what they really want. It's mostly autopilot. Okay, I have a job, I have this, I have a house, I have to pay for my house, but what would I like to do to pay for my house? I must get a job. What type of job? What job would you like to do? What is it that would you want to like to work for yourself? Would you like to be a manager? Would you like to be a janitor? What would you like to do? And what type of house would you like to have? So the value system starts getting mixed up. If you're in an environment, and I've seen this with a lot of clients in corporate, they want to be in corporate only for a little while, but then they get stuck there because they didn't realize that the corporate was a stepping stone to something else. And if you get stuck in an environment that's stressful, that's toxic, that's not supportive, and you are not even living according to your own values, what else is there but burnout on the way to going, okay, on the way of happening? Now, symptoms of burnout, very different for most people, but most of the time is you feel lethargic, not motivated to go do anything. It's very closely, it looks like depression. And sometimes it's not depression, it's just like your value systems are in conflict with what you are busy doing. Right. More money doesn't equal better life. Easier life, but if you have all the money in your world, but you don't know what your values are and you can't live them out, it's a very, very bad place to be. Okay, so when you are burnt out, and if you are asking yourself, what is burnout? That is burnout. Whose value systems are you being true to, your own or other people's? Right. And it's amazing. I've had so many people saying this is their job. That's what they like. They don't want to advance in a company, or they don't want to go up the career ladder. They're okay there. And I'm like, wow, you don't hear people saying that often. It's like, oh, I want to achieve this. I want to achieve that. No, I'm happy here. This is what I want to do. That's it. I don't want to go up I don't need to be a CEO. I don't need to be a owner of a company as work. And they're quite happy. And that is quite a nice thing to have when you surround your value systems with that. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now, there were questions surrounding panic and energy stuff, right? And Alida, I think you had the question. Would you still like to ask it, or would you like to have a quick discussion surrounding that? You can unmute quickly if you want. Okay, guilt. Oh, I see you said here. Okay, Alida, guilt can also contribute to a panic attack. On the computer, you can either press spacebar, Alida, or on the microphone, there should be a mute and unmute button. I don't know if you're on your laptop or in your phone. Okay, let's talk about guilt quickly. You know, guilt. This is a rough one, okay? Because people think if they don't feel guilty, they are not human. Okay, and I think most of you on this call would have felt guilty about something. I felt guilty about something. Guilt is a normal human emotion that we go through. But if we look at guilt in nature, okay, it doesn't exist. It's weird. No other animal feels guilty unless they're very domesticated, like our dogs. Cats definitely do not feel guilty about anything, but dogs do, because when they've been domesticated, you can see they feel guilty about what they've done when they've been reprimanded. But other than that, everything in the natural world, or in every animal that's not domesticated, they don't feel guilty. Where's the guilt? Okay, we get taught guilt. And if you live according to your own value systems, I don't think guilt will ever feature. If you know yourself 100%, this is who you are, and this is the best that you can do, and you show up as this person, I don't think guilt will ever show up. But guilt will definitely lead to panic attacks. But that guilt is probably a younger version of yourself instead of something else. Okay, Alira, you can speak. I'm sure you've unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly well.
Okay. What I need to find out, most people say panic attacks and anxiety attacks. So there should be a common difference between the two, as a panic attack is something that happens like typically immediately, and it's an episode that lasts for a few minutes up to an hour or so. But an anxiety attack can sometimes lead up to a longer period. And then it's in that period where you start feeling guilty, where you actually start blaming yourself for being in this anxiety attack. How do you overcome such an obstacle, and how do you change the mindset? Because your environment contributes to so much of that pressure you put on yourself because of it.
You put on yourself, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so anxiety and panic attacks. Yes, anxiety attacks, they don't usually use the word anxiety attacks in the medical field. They just use anxiety and then panic attacks. Right. So the panic attacks actually last longer than the anxiety attacks. They feel like you're gonna die. Where anxiety attacks are pretty much shorter. So if you have anxiety attack and it lasts for long, that's maybe more panic. Now, what most people feel like is they feel like weaklings when that happens to them. They feel like, why can't I hold this? It's a big judgmental thing. It's like, oh, shucks, I'm actually a mom, a wife, an owner of a business. I'm actually this and this and this. Why the hell can't I handle anxiety and panic attacks, right? So the first thing is emotions are not bad, especially for very emotional people and people who are very sensitive. Most of the time, it's shown that it's bad, and we judge ourselves for having those emotions. But then you take a step back. Well, if it's your emotion, it's your emotion. Nobody can tell you what your emotion is. Okay, only you can know it. Only you can know what you feel in your body. So a lot of people feel weak and they judge themselves when they get anxious about certain things. That's a good start to acknowledge that it's okay to have anxiety. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to have panic attacks. What is not okay is not doing anything about it. Okay. And if you blame the environment, okay, it's so amazing because one of my teachers many moons ago is actually a martial arts teacher. We were talking about meditation stuff, and he said you must be able to sit in the busiest city in the world, say for instance New York, with all the hustle and bustle, and there you must be able to meditate. You must meditate no matter what your surroundings are, and that hit me quite hard. I was like, wow, okay. So it doesn't matter what circumstance you find yourself in, you must be able to center yourself and go back and focus on the inner realm. It's an inner locus of control, they call it. Because when we adhere to everything around us, it's an external locus of control. That means everything around us has got power over what happens on the inside. And that's most of us, because we don't get taught that, listen, you can actually have the power in here, not out there. Right? Everything around us, when we're children, the weather, heat and cold, has got an effect on us. Food has got an effect on us. If you get into an accident, that's got an effect on you. All these external stimulations that's got an effect on us teaches us how to have an external locus of control. So we try and control the external environment more than we try and control the internal environment. Right. So if there's judgment involved, in some other way, shape, or form, you were taught that emotions are bad, and when you have emotions, there's a repercussion, either abuse or judgment or rejection. Okay. And that's a nightmare, because if those emotions are vilified when you are a child, you are going to feel guilty because of them for the rest of, or when they happen for the rest of your life. Okay. Then we take a step back and says, okay, but who taught us about emotions? Who taught us about judgment? Who taught us about our own self-worth? And did I find it anywhere? Usually, I see your hands go, okay. Nobody taught you about your own self-worth. How are you expected to know that it's okay to have an anxiety attack, or okay to have this emotion? Right. Then they're going to come like an avalanche. And it's okay to have them all. Accept them, feel them, and explore them to the most intense feeling that you can. For instance, like the anxiety. Okay, come on, Art. If you want to go stand, do it. It's time. Go for it. Let me see how far you can go. Let me see if I can stop breathing completely. It's funny what the body does, because the body wants to survive, funny enough. No matter how you think you feel like you want to die, the body doesn't want to. Okay. So the body will go, okay, no, no, no. So let's go, let's push it. And face that with a grown-up and a more mature outlook than the inner child that got hurt and that got abandoned and was taught that it's not right to feel emotions because there were repercussions surrounding those emotions. Does that make sense? And then
Yes,
you'll
it
have
does.
a very, very interesting journey. It will be amazing. It, so many things will open up. You'll have so much more power for yourself than giving it to other people and letting the people of the past dictate your future. Okay.
True. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, guys, anything else? I can't believe it's half an hour already. Bloody hell. Goes so quick. Okay. Anybody else have another question surrounding anything to do with anxiety, burnout, panic? Can burnout cause permanent damage, Rina? No. Okay. Permanent physical damage, maybe. Depends how long it lasts, but not permanent emotional and mental damage because you can actually do stuff about it once you become aware of it. Okay. It's like stress. It's not stress that causes damage, it's chronic stress that causes damage. Okay. And who's in charge of the perceptual shift of stress is your mind and how you perceive it. Right. It's the same with burnout. How do we perceive burnout? If you have burnout constantly for 10, 20, 40 years, there are so many people that turned their lives around because of small changes in their lives. It's never too late. Okay. And what's nice about the brain is it recreates new pathways the moment you decide that you've had enough and you want to do something else. It's a support system that actually is nice because in the past we thought person's 21, they get there, that's your brain capacity, that's your brain power. But the brain changes. So I don't think it's a permanent thing. And incidentally, nothing is permanent. In 100 years, your burnout, your anxiety, nothing will matter. Okay. This meeting that we're having, this discussion is not going to matter in 100 years. Right. So if you are feeling burnt out, check your support system, check the environment that you're working in, and check your values. The values are so crucial. And Dr. John DeMartini preached this for years. And it dawned on me a lot because I listened to him a lot and I was like, this doesn't make sense. And then something just clicked. Your value systems are crucial. If you don't live by them, the universe is going to put somebody in charge of them to make you get feedback to say, okay, but this is enough. I do not want to do this job anymore. What can be my 6-month, 12-month, year and a half plan to maybe do something else? Okay, so that's crucial. So short answer, no. I don't think burnout can cause permanent damage. Okay. Cool. Does that answer your question, Rina? Yes, no, maybe, no. You can type there. Yes. Okay. You're welcome. Okay, guys, anybody else have a question? Something. All right. So when you feel anxious, it's okay. It's not a weakness. When you feel overwhelmed, it's okay. It's not a weakness. Bloody hell. You are still human. Most of the problems happen because we don't acknowledge that we are human. What we are does not change over a lifetime that much. We are all human. Okay. Who we are might fluctuate. I'll be happy human, I'll be sad human, I'll be angry, I'll be businessman, I'll be employee, employer. Those things change. What you are very rarely change over the course of a lifetime. Okay. What is the best way to recover from burnout, Vicky? Okay. Small incremental steps. All right. Something that you enjoy. Switching off completely for a couple of days. So switching off means literally switching off from electronic devices, from interactions. Okay. Social support structure, hanging out with people who you care about. Okay, those are good things from burnout. And then the type of food is actually crucial, your diet. Okay. No poison, no alcohol, no stimulants, no drugs, no stuff like that. That doesn't help for burnout at all. Okay. And yet it's right on the planet. All right. So when you're on a recover for burnout, I would suggest switch off for at least 24 hours minimum. Nothing, nothing, nothing. If you have to sleep for 3 days, sleep for 3 days. And then interact with people and social structures and watch things that you like. Okay. And eat nice food and sleep well. That's a good one. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense, Vicky? I hope that answers your question. You're welcome. You mentioned the mind can let go of things that causes the panic attacks. However, the body still remembers. Yes. By putting yourself in that direct situation, will it help to make the body forget the trauma, or is there other ways? Yes. If you put yourself in the direct situation, yes. Exactly. You put yourself in that fear, you feel the heart palpitations, the sweaty palms, you breathe. In that direct situation is the only thing where you can overcome the difficult situation. Okay. It's like people, I want to learn how to fight. Yes, so then you have to fight. You have to actually have an engagement with another opponent. You can't imagine. Your body must feel what it feels like to get hit, to get injured, to get hurt. Okay, then you overcome it. Otherwise, it's all repeating the realm of fantasy. So yes, and it is actually nice because you can put yourself in that situation in a safer environment that you were used to, especially for a grown-up. Okay. If you're afraid of frogs, you don't have to go and jump in a pond of frogs and swim with frogs. You can stand like 3 meters away and then start breathing and then, okay, go. You don't have to run away. This is not the inner child anymore. You can have a friend standing with you and they can talk you through it and then incrementally take steps to better that. But you have to put yourself in that situation. It's the only way you're going to go through it. Otherwise, it remains the realm of fantasy and that's not where we want to stay. Okay. Anda, kan mens heel ontslae raak van alle angs en paniekaanvalle en medikasies? Ja, jy kan. It's definitely a possibility. I've seen it in my practice. Okay, over the past 17 years. Wow. Yeah, you can. Definitely. Absolutely. Okay. And it's funny because you're not going to take or get rid of anxiety and panic and stress in life, but you become so resilient that those things doesn't have that effect on you anymore. And then people say the weirdest things. It's like a weight's been lifted off the shoulders. They feel lighter. They feel they move more easily. They sleep better. They're more patient. There's lots of things that happen. So yes, you can definitely get rid of it. Okay. Anything else? Let's see questions. All right. The one thing though, speaking of medication, ironically enough, I had someone this morning asking me that they're not doing very well. They left all their medication. It's made it worse. So what happens in the medication field, in the medical field, what we do is non-medical, but I've seen this over and over. If people just jump off medication, they crash. Most of the time they get weaned off medication. It's like a drug, you get weaned off. Very few people has the strength or have the strength to just quit. Okay, they get weaned off. Otherwise, there's all sorts of nonsense happening with the body. But yeah, a medical doctor can explain that better. But just the side note on the medications. Okay. Cool. Anything else? Anybody questions? All right. So if you are getting anxious, last question. All right, last question. Last question ever. If you are not afraid of something, what causes a sudden panic attack for that specific thing? No. If you are afraid of something, then there is a fear. Not like you're not afraid. Somewhere in the subconscious, it's buried in experience that you might have had with that thing. Okay. You cannot be afraid of something you've never experienced. That's the world of fantasy. If your body reacts to it and your mind reacts to it, you must have experienced it. Whether it was this life, past life, somewhere along an energetic line, it's impossible not to have that. Okay, so it is there. Okay, it's just to uncover it. Okay, and that's the uncovering part that takes the time. All right, cool, guys. Anything else? Any other questions? I hope it makes sense. I hope you approach your anxiety and all this stuff the world throws at you in a different light. Right. There's a part of you that's quite amazing. If you take a step back and you go, okay, I can sit calmly amongst so many things. A very good friend of mine actually had a stroke many years ago, and a couple of years after that, she thought she was having one again. And I was sitting with her and her husband, and she she went crazy, and he went, and I sat there and I put on her shoes. And during all of this, she looked at me and she said, "You're staying so calm." I'm like, yeah, well, it doesn't help me to freak out while you're busy having this because you're freaking out for everybody in the room, so it's okay. And that calm, it's amazing what the power of that calm when you're doing stuff with people, with yourself, it's actually quite amazing. Okay, so remember to try and stay calm and practice it. Why does public speaking cause so much anxiety? Fear of judgment, fear of rejection. Simple as that. Okay. If no one that you were speaking to was going to judge you, and if they weren't going to reject you, then No, it won't be a problem. Okay. It's actually quite cool. So fear of judgment and fear of rejection. If you don't care what they think, and if you don't worry if you're going to be rejected or cancelled or whatever they've got, then you can say what you want. Okay. Does that answer your question, Raymond? So you must go, and usually when there's a lot of fear of judging and rejection, that means your judgmental mind is also quite strong because it needs to make sense of things, and you think that's what people are going to project onto you. Okay. So yes, go check the things surrounding judgment and rejection. Rejection is one of the worst things that can happen to us. From loved ones, from friends, ignoring, even from, it's just not nice. It's actually worse than judgment. Okay, Vicky, thank you for your sessions. I appreciate it. I think, you're welcome, Vicky. Yeah, these Sunday sessions are quite interesting. It's nice to have discussions surrounding this, especially from a different point of view, because very few people want to go there and talk about the difficult things because they think, oh, yes, there's something wrong with them or they're broken. You are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You are human. Bloody hell. We're all human. It's what we do. Okay. Cool. It does, yes. All right. Awesome, Raymond. Anybody else? Last question before we finish off for tonight. Julian, how do you manage dopamine being blocked by medication if you cannot be tapered off? Dopamine is a rough thing. Okay, if you can't taper off and you've got dopamine being blocked, funny enough, okay, I would actually suggest meditation, but not short meditations, at least half an hour to an hour of sitting and meditating. Okay. Interesting story, right? I've actually worked with well, not worked with someone. It's also a very close friend of mine who has Parkinson's. And we started off with meditation, sitting still. And during the meditation stuff, it was actually quite amazing to see that his body could actually relax. But whether he kept up with it or not, I don't know. But meditation, don't neglect the art of meditating. And if you don't know how to start, sit with your legs crossed, eyes closed. Do not mess with your mind too much and breathe. And see how long you can sit in that position without moving and just breathing, and at least half an hour to an hour. Okay, because the body has an amazing capacity to start healing itself if we keep it in the center and if we keep it centered and calm. Okay, so if you want to manage dopamine being blocked, meditation is actually such a free tool, such an amazing tool to do stuff like this. And people have had so much experiences and successes with it, right? Does that answer your question, Julian? Because the medical science will tell you so many things surrounding dopamine. Amazing thing. So they have got breakthroughs here and medication there, but I think start from the other side. Right. Meditation is a good one. Thank you, Aiden. We'll support to give it a go. Yes, give it a go. Okay, I suffer from severe fear of heights and I'm in current sessions to overcome them. Yeah, but yesterday I went up an escalator, felt calm, but coming down, I really felt like my legs are going to give in. The adrenaline was so much, I struggled to walk. Why was that okay to go up but not down? Funny enough, when you look up, there's more control. When you look down, it feels like you're going to fall. Because when you're on high stuff, and high things, and you look down, it's a nightmare. Your body goes, "Aah!" When you look up, you have no idea of how high it is. That's why in the movies, you always hear, never look down. So when you climb a mountain and you look down, no, that's why. Okay, because when we go down, you can see how far you can fall. All right. But if there was a change from the up, was the up always difficult or was the up changed? Is there, okay. Okay. So yes, if there's a change, then it's cool. But you did it. And once you've done it, you must acknowledge that you did it. Okay. Why do we sometimes feel like we're falling just before waking up from sleep? Wow, now we're getting into the weird conversations. Okay. So why do we sometimes feel like we're falling just before waking from sleep? Yeah, I've had that a lot many years ago. Okay. Now there are different theories. Okay. One is that maybe you've left your body and you come back into it. The other thing is maybe the subconscious is working out something surrounding fears, and it literally is in a, I don't know if you guys experienced that, but they call it sleep paralysis. Got another name for it, but you're awake, but you're not awake. Your body feels stuck. your senses are awoken or awoke, or your senses are active, but you can't move. Okay. Now, what they say is the body and the limbic system of the brain is activated, but the messages have not gotten to the limbs yet. Okay. So there are so many things, so many explanations. But if that happens regularly, Rena, again, I suggest meditation before sleep. Okay. With what intent do you go to sleep? All right. With what intent do you want to wake up? It's a weird thing because we, and I think I think I had the discussion with you. How do you go to sleep? I go to sleep, damn it. It's like, okay, but there's an intent. I go to sleep to rest and I wake up restful. I go to sleep to get answers and I wake up with the answers. You put an intent with your sleep, right? So there are different theories as to why that happens. Okay. Personally, I think that when you sleep and your energetic body rests, your subconscious can do a lot of things. And whether that's astral travel, lucid dreaming, normal dreaming, it reacts. And it's not only falling. I've sometimes jumped from sleep. And then I'm like, what the hell happened just now? My body just jumped. It was very funny. And believe it or not, in 1999, 2001, I was in London and my friends asked me, why the hell do I sleep so weird? And I'm like, what do you mean? Why do I sleep so weird? They took a picture of me sleeping on my side with both hands like this in defensive position, pointing up to the roof. And I'm like, what the hell? I didn't believe them, but I was sleeping like that. I'm like, the mind. I think it was all my training was because when I went to London, I couldn't train as much as I did before going to London, and I think my body was missing it. So I was like training in the sleep. It was very weird, but that also left. What do you do when you have so many vivid dreams? I get to a point where my dreams feel more like reality than my actual life. Yes. Okay. Am I a butterfly dreaming I'm a man, or am I a man dreaming I'm a butterfly? Who can tell? The brain can't tell. Okay. So if you have many vivid dreams, Vicky, start writing them down. Try and decipher the messages that you need to get from them. Okay. Dreams, people say dreams are just dreams. Yes, you get normal dreams, you get lucid dreams, you get dreams with messages, you get dreams that mean nothing, you get dreams that mean a lot. But if you don't start practicing writing them down and learning from them and understanding the difference between the important ones and the less important ones, then they're probably going to haunt you. So it's okay to have those vivid dreams. If they feel more real than life, then maybe they are giving you a message. So it's nice to write them down. Just in the morning, don't, because most people try and write them down in the afternoon, remember what they dream. That's why people have dream journals. They write them down in the morning and go, okay, I can go back to it. And that becomes interesting. I've done that as well. It's like, wow, I remember this and this and this and this. And then when you do it for a long time, you won't need to worry about your vivid dreams anymore. You can distinguish between the important ones and the less important ones. Okay, make sense? Okay, good, Vicky. Alrighty. Wow, 45 minutes. Usually just an half an hour, but then we go up to 45 minutes in an hour and time flies, but that's okay. All right. Any other questions? No. Okay. Good. Then you must have an awesome evening. Go sleep with intent. When anxiousness and panic raises its head, invite it in. It's part of your journey. Okay. It's not something to be judged. It's not something to express. It's not something to vilify. All right. We've got darkness and sunlight, winter and summer. We've got all these dual things running around with us. So accept both of yours and whatever that may show up for you. Okay. And thank you guys for joining me tonight.